Last Saturday, was the Jaro.
Okay, let's start.
Tanda Kazakinian so Luni Bag Choba Piton, the chance on the Camdru jet on some of the Dosavare.
So last time, Geshe is teaching Shantideva's text, the Bodhisattva's way of life. And the other day, on Wednesday, we started to talk about the first 3 of the 7 limbs, which was prostrations, chatsel.
Chansawatan, Chubamba, Chansewa, Camdru some of the Dosas.
Yeah, so we finished the making of prostrations, offerings, and refuge practice.
Last of that, get on Ligundin Sender Dubasha Biligram, that Dubasha only the 3 Gleb Jure.
And so the second chapter of the text is called the Confession of Negative Deeds. And now and now we are actually coming to the point where we make the confessions.
Last of Dubasha Tanda Nambanal get a short Nimbo Tobju going to Dubasha Golawore.
And so the most popular and well-known way of confessing one's misdeeds is by way of making use of the 4 opponent powers.
Nimbo Tobjata Tanda Karzina Namba Samjimbito Tengito Nimbo Kandakopito Tanini Palilar Topitop Zenitop Jatejare.
And so the 4 opponent powers, as they are presented in the text, are the power of complete remorse, the power of reliance, the power of the antidote, and the power of turning away from faults.
Taton top tombo number Sanjimbito Zia the Karze or Zitin. So Dupa Karachina tell Joshachi, Dupa Gonzantova, Tendicini, Yantapan in Yopa Chiatre.
So, speaking about the first one, the power of complete remorse, it's where we really, from deep within our hearts, regret not having recognized that we have done something negative, and then deeply from within our hearts regret what we have done wrong. Yeah, so when we have done something negative, it's very, very important to recognize that as a fault.
Pena Nitapa, Kazashin in Rodania, China, Kazakyan Shedo, the Parish Kazashia, the Koro Yondin Rochi, the Ketchun Richi in Nasham, the Kyun Bash, Hako Mare.
Because if, say, someone, is very much habituated to lying, they do it over and over again, and it's very difficult for them to really see that something is not quite right,
In our searching Kirita, so the searching Kirana, Kyosa Momoton, Gerita, so much as at them Burr Road, Yagar Road, and sing it. Yantapa Kosoma said the Parish Pashol, Ganich, but indeed so I can manage so much to we on your Koso Lekaching to Tarsona Mato. Keti so Mombuchi Chili open road, and it can change your Mare.
Or we can imagine, people who, like maybe professionally, engage in killing sentient beings. For them it's kind of like, becomes a strong habit, and it's just their job. And they don't have the notion that the other being is suffering in great detail. And they just, do the action of killing, and they don't have any particular notion of doing something negative.
So the Nabis was over Nipal and Chegua to shoot Nipa Chembo and Sazanyamba Tombola, Nipal and Gonzachinitil in Yopa Shuchi at the Sheriore.
Yes. Yeah. So that's why the first of these 4 opponent powers is to, to really recognize negative actions as such, and having the sense of regret that we have made a mistake.
So Tanindi Nipan was the chet on the candidates or is it Tanda not to 10 Della Sajani, and it's Seranqua Toma Mepaniate, and not to Testibo Marcetin, Delangazo Ibasa, and also Jan or Majan or Temaimba.
So, from the Buddhist perspective, we have been around for, countless lifetimes. We have been, around since time without beginning. And although we don't have any recollections usually of what we have done in the past, but it's not just, negative actions that we have done in this life, but we have done, a lot of negativities in all these past lives that we have had.
Last Tandan deep Kabla, Koroga. Nimbo can the Kyopito Chingo, number Sanjabito, she because the Karshi or is it a suit, Jumse the Shendu, Manga number Sanjam Bandit, the Jizin Shem, the number Sanjam Batani Pal and Yosha Machina, Regumar is a Jumse to Shendu. Gyumtsen.
So this first of the four power, the power of complete remorse, here there are reasons that are being applied. So it's explain the reason for why it is important to confess one's negativities. But what we do initially when we confess is that we, make supplication prayers to the to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas.
What is a supplication?
Praying to them. Saying that, I'm going to confess this and this now. So we make prayers to the, imagining, making these prayers in front of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and then as much as we can remember, make confession of what we have done wrong in this life, but also think of, the fact that we have done all sorts of negativities also in the past. Here we recollect negativities or negative actions that we have done with our body, speech, and mind. Such as killing and then lying or kasa semki. It could be killing or lying or having given reason to anger, given rise to anger. So there are these negative actions that we ourselves have done, but there are also actions that we have asked others to do. If we ask someone else, hey, go and kill this and this person for me, on my behalf, then that counts as a negative action that we have done, or we asked others to do as well. So when we ask someone else to, kill basically on our behalf, the negativity created is the same as if we were doing it ourselves. And then we there can be the situation that we see or we know, we get to know of someone else doing a negative action to harming someone else, and then we rejoice in that, in that person having done that and that negative action. That's also negative.
There's people trying to enter the Zoom, but it doesn't work. So I'm trying to, just so Geshe knows there's people that want to join.
Okay, yeah.
Like I tried to do it from here, but just so.
Tana cello la mi yong mi tapsi sigiri le via kali do in kom tapsi sigiri kom fa pasi il mutune
Really? Then tada ja yo.
di kapsu sha
Ngani mantani ro ro. O tari. Ngan matani lakpar tal nga so matsenal dikpa cheshor ta chulta nga so na shuna konchok samla mata pachewata ani phamala no pachewata pinjala no pachewa so le katin chimbot so la no pachewata dikpa shu tsagiyore.
And what else is considered to be grave negativity? Kasi konchok So having been disrespectful in any way to the, in relation to the three jewels, but then also having been unkind or having harmed, say, our parents or, those close ones who have helped us, harming them in any way is considered very grave negativity as well.
Osonsa tandi dikpa mombo chewa ta tsama ya cheni ta ta so to mashana karchang ro zeki ta so ni ba ta yo mare
So
dikpa mashana
yeah, if and so having created all these kinds of negativities, if we don't, confess them, confess and purify them, then then there will
ko ta za ja ja na ko tsama cha ma
yeah. So if you don't confess them, then there is no way to purify them really.
sama ma cha ma ze nga so le ti dikpa ga chen dal ta ka nge che de at nga so le ka ti cha ta so le ta nga ta yi ki ko ni ma ge wa che pa le ti nga so ka nge che de wa nga so chen dal thong de wo re thong za ma ze che chima le ya nya wa la so pe de ri dinga sam ji ma cha pa ti li chen bo se yo re
Yeah, so if you don't, confess our negative actions, and purify them completely, then that will not only have negative results, in forms of difficulties, suffering, and whatnot in this life, but also, will possibly lead to a negative rebirth in the hell realms or what in the future.
so za chen dal ngi par ta dikpa ta ta wi ta blan ba so che gore mo ga chen dal dikpa ta ta ba so che gore ze ata na jam se te she gore chen dal ngi par ta kali kya gore ma ta nga so ta keche ke mare san ni ja ja na ina tel ro pa che ni se ka yung go mare
Yeah, so this is the reason behind, explaining why it is important to make confessions and purifying our negativities. Because if you don't do that and, purify that karma, then there's nothing else that helps us, as it were, to avoid suffering.
la bar ta nga so le ma se chik tel se ta tun du shu ro se tun du ri ti na ta te ran ngi par ta che gore mo ga te ran che go mar te ri che go mare Rita Jaja and Digres, that the Bashata Gorta, Sani Nani Jimata Songa, so Kalikali Shashores, and Tendi Pajana, Tison the Tisur Kalil and Roja Kari Basha, Tirini Zon, Tini Sha Gosamba, Yinchumachika, Gozik to Gore.
And because, our lives are very short, it's no good use to say, I do it tomorrow, I do it later, because we don't know how long we still will be around. So it's good to do our best to start from now on to confess and purify these negativities.
Dikpa Sadia, they are Tonda Chichu Tonda Minjon, Tendi Gachetanga, so Spaza Kazashi, they are Manchesa Tonda Tende Minjol Kazashi. Teaching Jebuchimbo Chichaman, Jebuchu Chicachet, the Kazashi, Jebuchu Chicachet, control, Soche, the needs Pazati Letanga, you could do Pache de Yore.
I mean, usually people engage in all sorts of negativities with body, speech, and mind for all sorts of reasons. But usually there's just there's very little outcome and no real benefit.
Anteni tanda dinol chenangaso perna ta masenderle shiuchi kale kyab de khachon de shandro vinyang botala Sama yunin roja kareze gore ta kamba yonari kamba zikpo yonari mota zikpo yonari ta posha mombo yonari ta so ta yin ta tana so go zikpo zawa chimbo te machi na machi gyami son kyopche de ate sama yunin roari te tanda tamcha voti chaguna ze ate tere.
And also what is being said is that, however hard we are working, in this life to accumulate all sorts of things, money, other material wealth, and however much we take care of this body, but at the end of the day, when we, pass away, then we can't take anything with us.
Sonza tanda chize gore. Tenin de lamza tamanza tongi chitu panamba na so chingatso pan rojati matserchi kanal goya ta soya zaya ta poya dan toya ta so nyu chi mo gore tan dopa mo koni shu chi che tani goya ta mo goa tsama data ni la yanare yapo ta dupo yanare ro pogdo Tendi Gacheta, the Panamba Nasos Chegore Zevore.
And that's a Goa Nunorisha.
Matsechika Twaki Shuchi Go Marwa, in a Shuchi Garboji Chala Najan, Shuchi Kucheta, Kali Gavi, the Yapori, the Dupori, Tropori, Jares in a teacher, the Kalindra, and Big Panamba Nasos Chegore Zevore.
We can say that actually at the end of the day, we don't really need so much in this very short life. But still, we try to accumulate so many things and work so hard to get and whatnot. And by doing so, also in relation to our friends and so-called enemies, we create a lot of negativities.
Tani tanda daram zawa namja me ke jamam za namja me panjir se tin sondo tam do tsadina jazia ta ngaso me pa zo go mari da koro me pa chandro do nyen ze sa wa chen do kan jo na te me pa chandro do si pe na ngaso chi she na ngaso so so dander chi ni ka sa nga dare ni tsu pa za ni ni da yin sa de chi na sa yi jo ki ra ko sha sa ze ni ngaso ko ya ti mo bo yo ro da koro man za ze da ze ro koro me pa chandro re ngaso ka li ja ko mari tsu pa za sa chi na ya
Shokchang katse?
shotang chi re gu
So, oh yeah, it says in verse 35 in the second chapter, my foes will become nothing, my friends will become nothing, I too will become nothing, likewise all will become nothing. So this is saying that, in relation to our so-called friends and enemies, we easily engage in all sorts of negativities with body, speech, and mind. Because lungang isum.
Lunga is a top of Yamatonite, Tonda Yomi Kanga Golem message to Nyotazoni de Deres. Tana, Pena Jazia Tangi, Sego to Samni Jazia Tangal Tichimbungi Segos and Sego Marcorme Pachando Race, second day to Mars. Tangaro Nienjes in his shoes on Kyopchego, the shoes angry, the son Kyopcheto Yomateame Pachando, so son Kyopcheto Mundoas, Tana, so young Tamal May Parin Rondoas. So the Chadanya some chini dollar chop, Manila chopat and dollar down Kalimombo Jal, Tonda Yomaris.
Yeah, so the point is that because nothing is really stable, so we can, consider someone as our so-called enemy or what, but, it might be, and we might think of a plan to eliminate them, but then but then all of a sudden they're gone, they've passed away, and likewise we engage in so many hardships for the sake of our so-called friends or close ones, but then again even we can't take care of our own self. I mean, because we also at some point have to go, right?
Tam dots di on nga so dipitil ya savlo chitan da ko res nga so chon ni zon ta part ya ga ton da so pa mombo ja pasol da chini ta leka du pa mombo chi tsama chi mombo che de ta se na malam ta na jin chi ma do che kon chen cha ta yo ma res ya shi malam ta na chen yo ma che kon za chen bi na me kire ni tsama me ki cha sa res na ta nga chon ni na me se ma che zan ro sa ri ni chi shu chi che ka che yo re ta savlo chi ton di. You
can think of the past, past. I mean, the earlier part of our lives, what we have done in relation to our friends and foes or enemies. But what remains of that is just like a memory or like a dream, and oftentimes we even have forgotten what we have done.
So Nama Bipacha and Yoshacha that the Sota Chon Ketchembori Mato Tane, Didi Skipocini de Sani Kipocini de Tiso the Trolla Papa, de Denatin, Mataparizi Wara, Matso Matseziata, that same Matapashin and Chicken Shendra Jikin Hachamon Bochiores, say Ridin Pandra Yo Maris, Torin and Dry Yores. Teri macha something on Nepa Mayinga, Nepa Rashamis, and a Nepa machine hard any Mombota, Nepa Kuniman Yukashishan, Tendri Mombochi was on Sangat, Chukeli, what the Dubasha, the Hachon Kitchen Boris.
But in any case, for those of us who, accept or have trust or belief or faith in the Dharma, the making of or confessing our negativities and purifying them is really, really important. And it's also saying that, we can't extend our lives, we can't make them longer. But there's so many conditions which might, make the life shorter, and there might be people who suffer. Well, or there might be people who suffer from an illness, but for some reason they're able to live a bit, or kind of go through, or get over the illness. But then there are other people who are very healthy, and all of a sudden they die, or due to an accident or sudden illness and whatnot.
So Dupan Yoshachi at the Pat Tarimbochi Savjan Majani, Top Tombo, Top Tombo, and Yamlin Rawachina, so near Dupacheja, the Samlo Yako, Chiton, the so Jimanga Kangi, Mashani Jajan, a Kangi Mombo, trade race, that Sendele and Kangi Mombo, trade into the Techimale and Kangi Mombo, trade the Nipartani Shago, the Nyan Tapani, Tandanato, Tuching Tona, shooting Johnny Tatik Dias, said to Samlo Jura. Hobal Tixon of the Tenjin Yopa Ketona, Dushal Hacham Pembochum Racing.
Yeah, so it's very beneficial, really, like to recollect one's negativities and confess them and purify them as best as possible, and really to have a really sincere sense of regret, and such a form of regret as if we had swallowed poison, like that sense of regret.
Dupatizia, the Soso Dupachupat, she has what any roach, the top tombo, the Nidji, and also Dupatanga Sazia, and Yopa Pochikiatri, the Nicasa Galakashian, the Sechi city, Joy on Natisholas, on the college.
Oh, okay, yeah. So as Rika said the other day, now we have finished that part of the confession, or the first power of the four. If you have any questions.
What do we do in situations where we know we have probably done something wrong, but we can't point to it? Like, let's say I had a conversation with Perry and I see she's getting upset, but I don't know what I have done to make her upset. How do I then do this practice? Do I say whatever I might have said that made her upset, or do I just sometimes I just don't know what I've done wrong, but I know I've done something stupid in the day, so I just generalize it. Like, may everything be forgiven that I've done wrong today, but is that wrong, or can we do this?
Konki Kichala Tene, Konki Sem Chicha this Mikiwa Shaksha, Yene Kons Gumsen Sebo Haku Guamare. Then Tamada Kanis Chigre, the Chirtankinga, the ring, Pesha, not in Karina, Chibaina Yang, the Dikba Dagi Shagi, Kansen Kong Gumsen, Mishambala,
Kolkashi Kachana Poshia Chamana, Pashol, Kanichin Poy Hamukon, Pasho Super Zandro.
Kunum Ducha Yomare, and it is a Hamako one kid, this cancer patient.
Really, Tate Dupakashi Chakamari sound. Colonel Napoyo Mara, Ketanga Kachishia, Karsa Chana, Nakalvazia, Te Chana Mishima Mageva, Nakamageva Jakan, Zun Chama to Nakalvaz. Nakalvazia at the Tanda Dinal and Joy Super. There's an answer Kachiton mini papa, Sheni, the Pashol Potutan Japora. That Tenjido and Joyona Mishimato, Jen Mageva non Joyumari. Nakalvazia Chior, Nakalvaz in Hakoa, oh, Titi. Dinal and Joyona Mishitemana, Mageva and Jomari.
Ningake young this Migiwa.
No, Jamagorita.
Geshe said because you didn't have any negative intention to hurt, Perry, for example. So that in that way, maybe it's not cannot be considered as a negativity, but maybe it falls into the category because there are four kasa.
Zun chama so not yet. Zunshia, Zundaka, Chama Chamaziti mean.
So there are four negativities of the speech.
Than the case.
So there's lying, harsh speech, and divisive speech, and meaningless talk. It might fall into the category of meaningless talk.
But Rika's example is she has no intention to hurt me.
Yeah.
But I upset.
Yes.
So what can she do? Because she is not aware how she upset me.
Yeah.
But I'm feeling upset.
Yes. Yeah. So kung kunlong me pe wangki. Sem tam song. Tene.
Takul Samna Yomari, Monichena Natso Tindil social Pidupa the Mesanda was it, and Narjawa Machana Dupa Yoma. Narjawa the Tonda Chicamini Keshe Dero. Taku Tonda Yosachi College, Guba Yosachi Shiva, Pachol Tonda Poso Tandina, the Yomari.
So that because it now he says because it had some kind of meaning. It was a meaningful conversation, we can say, right? So it doesn't fall into meaningless talk. So, and as you didn't have any negative intention, it's not considered a negativity, which then does not need to be confessed. We had a question earlier in some classes before, I think, related, where there's no intention.
I had a teacher that told me it's good to do a 4 opponent powers purification practice every day before we go to bed.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Okay.
And I try to do this, but I'm not every day, like sometimes I know a concrete thing where I did something that wasn't so good. But often I don't know a concrete thing, but I'm aware that I've probably hurt someone and did something incorrect. But I didn't have the intention to harm someone. Like if you ask me, I never have the negative intention, probably because I'm ignorant. But should I then still try to do this purification practice every day before I go to bed and just do it on a general level, or does he say it's not necessary? Like that's what I'm confused about.
Because on top of that, the Chinese Mahayana, the Chinese Buddhists normally would prostrate to 35 Buddhas to confess and to purify. But I know if Vajrayana practice is to do the mitsuma, right?
Mixima is one possibility.
Yes. So this is one of the possibilities to do the mitsuma for the practice.
For the purification.
Purification, yeah. So both ways. One
Okay.
is confess and the other one is purification.
Ko sigiru sana ko gen chemba karisung sana ni ma re la gona kapsu mani kong la topshi ranye pu topshi ti kola samla tha ti dikpa sa shagre ine mangchi namgin yanke de mixe ki dikpa dengi mindu ine da karichi gare de
쟁거면도요.
ya chia tanki
다디기 시아나지 쟁아트단지 거를 마제나에다 센데당 제가 도마 마치 바닝인자 문자 링아에서 그 두바치 사뇨요 제르사미 베그갈 강에 제르사미 딜인교 바치는지 거를 두바리리 뭐 젠토는 야쇼리 마토는 계단 뭐다 남바다 묵바다 저 젠토나 옆으로 송도 안 되나 뭐데 젠토나 옆으로 마토나에다 이 타초 제니서서 온교 바치는지 거를
Yeah, even if you don't, remember all the details, but I mean, like Geshe said earlier, and we have done so many negativities, maybe not today, or or you can't remember exactly, but it's but also thinking you can remember all the, or imagine that you have done quite likely done something negative in all the countless beginningless lifetimes, so you can kind of imagine to purify or confess all these things, right?
So would you then recommend for the evening practice to say like all the 10 non-virtues and I regret that I've ever done them, or what would you recommend?
Det går nok også migi chu yura. Så så migi chu den er de den er
막이 없어도 야 제니요.
de er køber.
디넌 레오 제리삼요.
Chin så det køber. Yeah, that's good.
레레 인발.
And I consider to say
The Chinese Buddhists, they do the
yes,
prostration to
confession,
35
yes.
Buddhas.
I remember.
Some is doing mitsuma.
So gyami ki lukso nanglola kon so kasa dikpashabe kapsu di sangye sumchu songa tongsha ine kongyang sigiru sana da pebe lukso nanglola yang miximag donya yuro tik chakpya da dikpashaya dang dikpadaya ki tap yuro. And what was the question?
The question is that correct that the 35 Buddha prostration, is that a confession and the mitsuma is purification?
Okay, the tongsha di dikpashaya dang chiparabore dang mixima
두파샤가 나가고니 두파샤가 탑람라와 단다 님보 근데 또 삼바는 로시오레 됐어
nyembo re
또 삼바 갑라 다 동샤트와 무시마 사레타 ndo kange tangya loare karichena tetso nimbo 근데 교비 도블 로고요
yeah, so dikpa shakpa dang dikpa dakwa de ngane chen dis kaga tunda kagoro
득바샤파즈나 득바파 메파조비체트 나사타 트라비체트 맹가 카마치요라 나사탄 나사나니 득바등이 코바나 나사나 차라 달테 메타우트 무츠마소와 똥샹도야 아니 똥바니 고미야 나카고니 무츠마사야 똥샹도야 다 이갸소와 봄가소와 텐디자므라요레 봄가소와 코뇨와 봄가 봄쳔방가 소요 차타 그쵸 텐디타 타테소마코는 다 카운터 무츠마소와레 똥샹도야레 키프샹도야레 키프샹도 제탄 득바샤에 체타 소마라 미말 야가르 반자타치가 계셔 그래서 다 카운터 나가고니 돈반도야 단다 톱섬바타 Manyam the Jijan and Rich Tanda Tombani Gombachu, same Gogoni, Chanchuk, same Gombani, Gimbala Sopa, same Gogoni, Gomjavia, Nakagoni Mustimata, Camdrola Sopata, Tonshala Sopandoya, Ani Ligugoni Chata, Koracha, the Sonian book and the Kyopito and Rovers, Tosamba.
And here, so Geshe mentioned all possible methods, which are like an antidote to purify the negativities. So these were the way that Geshe explained it. It was the prostration to the 35 confession Buddhas, and also Miktsema. But then he also added, like meditation on emptiness, meditating on bodhicitta, then doing all sorts of recitations. Also their, confession prayers particularly, and whatnot. These are all methods to counteract the negativity, so they work as purification practices.
Tandarin Jingas on the Dodo Majana Yasari. Naso Mijika Tuching Toyona, Kekar Chegre, Kotu Nation Road, some Shirajingri, telling Yopa Shuki, Tombo the Terry. The Tanda number Sanjimbi doctor. Took the Corontoya Hakosana, Shuji Jingroa, the Nipata. Tate member Rojiglet Tungo, member Rojiglet Tembicama, the Tinky doctor, Sangita Chacho Sepala Sopata, Semjala Sopa, Tinky doctor. Somebody Tatil Menjigagora, men the Nimbo and the Kyopi doctor. That Jimatalate, that Nasatriatra, that Jimaning it took the Kambachik Maza, some that tin Namyang is Agme and number Sanjimbi, Noching, Tanda, Nibali La Dopito, Shabat, or Dodochin Ateniche or Tanda.
Okay. Yeah, so Geshe gave the analogy, we can imagine having swallowed some poison, and of course we have strong regret and immediately run to the doctor, go to the doctor. So, but once we recognize we have swallowed poison, we have this sense of regret. Yeah, that's the first of the 4 antidotes. The power of complete remorse. And then once we go to the doctor, seek help, that's then the power of reliance, and I think we come to that more. Where we, in this case, take refuge, in Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And then the third one, that's the power of the antidote, where we then apply certain methods, reflecting on emptiness and whatnot, and doing the 35 confession Buddhas, and so forth. And then, once we have then, in the example, recovered from that poison, have taken particular antidote or medicine to recover from that, then we'll eventually have the firm conviction. Well, I'm never going to swallow a poison again. Likewise, I'm not, having regretted and purified the negativities. Then one has the intention to definitely not engage in these actions again.
So that's an object. Then the chuche deat and that's mato when you strache to your mar. That's chuya poche to your mar. Strache to your mars. Penangato, money 2 chicks Iona, as a carching do so sound on the Hakore. 3 joking at 2 chicks Iona, Tanga Tiringon, Lolo Degre de Mari. Just a desari in my church.
Guess just asking you, if we swallowed poison this morning, would we be able to sit comfortably and relax now here?
Teumaro, Tanda men call it Junitate, Meratani, Kalishuchi Jauro.
We of course would, do our best to go immediately to the doctor, to the hospital.
Tana Namu controls Zana, Trinach Karcher, Chanamich in Arams and Didir.
However, compared to, say, having been very angry this morning, but now, we might not be angry anymore, but yeah, but oftentimes we don't do anything about it. We sit here comfortably and relax.
Then you moving out so no key at the country is in a control the Davjag Chigres or Tutu could no pangal cheshire tangan Zershuji Gary Tamata Chichen and Shandroker. Then you mato can no pacheto mare. No, but it's Chonati.
Nagere young men. Well, poison, the only 2 things that poison can do, either make us sick or, we'll die from it. This is all what poison can do.
Tell you, Ta control to not send the Gangi Mombo Chichamaze, Chemani Chamalapa, Kang some you make up as test by yours.
However, in terms, in the example of, or in the case of anger, creates a lot of difficulties and, hardships for us, not just in this life, but again, in future lives, over and over again, and unthinkable hardships.
Tell no me tani cherry o mare, the K o mare self some chichini, and the things she is young, the cati tachi gondel and roson, the need six matches major. Matso, member chicasala, Natsanda o chipeti, member sal shoe you can do us. As on Gondor China, member sal shoe you can do us, member tin, member which maza chizashons in a tata and yang do us.
Normally, when we just have a headache, we run to the doctor, and whenever he prescribes us medicine, we will, of course, take it.
Inayon, control tower chicker, Zambuling, Semchen Yonzo, Zambuli, Semchen Yonzo Canitini deores. Control.
But anger itself, is such a strong affliction. Anger, as such, can give hardships to all sentient beings.
Control the perimanga, control Shibo Marita, Yomomba Sama, Dupasamon, Sama, Canich deores.
But of course, there's not just anger, all these, whole range of afflictions give difficulties to all sense all sentient beings.
The Mepazo, the Tawla, Sanji, then the Chamyan Cheta, Tombanya Lasso, Pishira Gomton, that's a share, that's all to not in Chio.
Jamba Ranginji?
Jamba Ninjeta, Tombanya, Topi, Shira Lasso, National Mombo Chishiora. Same Ganatas, remember Chisho, the Sanji, then the Tati, May Yasho, the Tombanya, the Janjo. That's so Katisha and Yenya Rakayomari, Chomaris in Yengomaris.
But oftentimes we, as much as there are really good advice, pieces of advice in the teachings, and as much as it is said that, the Buddha is the best, as it were, physician, who can help us, give us the right means to overcome all these various afflictions, and saying that, the best medicine actually to overcome our afflictions is the meditation on emptiness, developing bodhicitta, loving kindness and compassion. But still, we oftentimes don't really listen.
That's all the Saulotani Chichiachi, Tangani, Nibatal Roa. Nibatin top theatre, Takishia Naja, Tengitop Dino, Camdro Matoshima, the Naji Camdro, the safety Nikaja, Pena Dojisepa, Tata Dojisepa in Nanji, Sangita Chas, Sama Jana, Dojisepa, Jadia, Dojisepa, the Dupa Tower, the Moma in Bag, Lakan Rose, Tengitop Dojisepa Jashi.
Hello. So here in the text, we come now to the second of these four opponent powers, which is the power of reliance. And here in the text, it just touches on, in this context, touches on the taking of refuge. But then Geshe adds that oftentimes, the Buddha Bodhisattva is considered as the, Buddha, of course, we make confessions.
Then those dinner that's all kept the Sojani, that's all Camro Checo, and Dino, Camro Tomato, same Kietamandu, Durdina, Ketan Camro Sepinica Jana, Yakora, Carizin, and also Dupasha, the Control Ya, Mate Pachuali, Dupashik, the same Chalama, no Pachini, Dupashik, Dupani Sakore, the Maton Rosayoma, the Patenio.
So here, Camdo Mato Junction,
Yota Munduta,
So here in the text, there's only mention of taking refuge, but it's good, to keep in mind that, or to keep the generation of bodhicitta in mind also, because we confess both kinds of negativities. The first type that we have created to the enlightened ones, and then taking refuge will purify these negativities. But then we've also created all sorts of negativities in relation to other sentient beings, and and by developing or meditating on bodhicitta, it will purify these negativities that we've created in relation to the other sentient beings.
Camdro Kasakini Sara, Camdro Cheondi, Sangita Jancho Sepala Sope, Kumchosam La Sopali, Yichini, Telejeva Yavondi, Rajan Kosolo Mata Paziata, Kosolo Saulo Dicta, Conjosam Ya Saulo Dicta, Rajan Mepa Chandro. Kosolo Yichini, Camdro Zat, Kosolo Yichini, Revachin, Logic Roa, the Leopatan, Kosolo Mata Sangita Jancho Sepala Sopala, Mata Parajan Meva Chandro, Mata Pata. That Kosolo Mastikur Macho, the Sumepa Chandro, so that the shock of the Pata and Gore.
Madepa Madapa.
Depa Macheva, the Juncho and Dramadayura.
So it is said that by taking refuge in the enlightened ones, in Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, it will purify, our negativities that we have created in relation to them in form of being disrespectful or having a lack of faith and whatnot.
Tani semke che ondi nazo dukpa chik to semcha la teni semcha la ndamanda no pa che wala teni dukpa tingo to semke che ondi ne semcha tamcha ko tonda che gi yenzeni ta semcha ko sol pa tonda che ondi ta ko sol no pa che wala pa tele nazo mi chik le chala chik kol ku chala to chola ta jana nazo ti chala kembo che tegra te na je semcha kor pa ro pa che ondi te sholi chongi dukpa tin ta kare ze ore
And
semcha
so,
la temi dukpa ta
yeah, so as mentioned before, when we give rise then to the to the spirit of enlightenment, to bodhicitta, and that will purify all the negative actions that we have done in relation to sentient beings. And it's just like, I gave the example of when we break some belonging of someone else, we are going to replace that thing, kind of in order to make up for it. But yes, in a similar way, it works like any harm that we have done in relation to beings, by giving rise to bodhicitta, which is the wish to be of benefit, working for the benefit of all sentient beings, then that will purify negativities.
So that the stingy to the or ten Jamni Conchosson Las or Patas Himjalas over Janitati in the Corella Pa Carzegore. Patel tendini passata le tel ten Shapachegore, San Salma resetting his Yala Yungora, Teta Chupa. That indrict the Fed Marquard, Pa Corosoli Nipa, Coral Timbi, Nipa Chonsa, Carnita Latini, Big Bat Conil Shate was on the Tiltingi to Laure.
Yeah, so then again, the second power of these four opponent powers is the power of reliance, where we then make confessions of our negativities that we have done in relation to the enlightened ones and all new sentient beings.
Kawalona Lani Tausha Lani Chilesh Peace. Fanny find Olema, Chutrikis.
是，
你翻译一下。
翻译什么呀？
我们哪里到去哪里去了嘛？这个意思。但是算了。等你，单都是把当年不跟着脚比多的嘞，是吧
？Yes. Yeah. So and the third one is the power of the antidote.
这大家那把的边边别家的什么哪里？当年你东北哪里也是我从成都。这是这个啥讲的？
I made a mistake. I mentioned something early on, which only comes now at that point.
大概是的，边那把我在老巴干那没比哪里年过日子，是吧？这是这什么人啥？但是出差的，他什么人？电脑上呢，control 所比那啥，上几个来年的，都把要过下过日子，这是。如果那啥的，没比看来年的要过下过那人，被对人的，same 个那啥 control 所把专门来上几个看来年的，都把到他结过日子。
So likewise, in the same way as if we think of having a disease, physical illness, we go and rely on the doctor and what they say, and so likewise, anything in relation to our minds and our afflictions, we listen to the advice of the Buddha.
Tani yang pe jamba chi kar gyar do zi tinga so yang sa chun chu chi le ma za to che na za za shu chi che go ndo as yang sa chun chu zen ha kwa ka de ni ma za san ro chu chu chi la za za che go yo na ta nga so control tan do cha ta control la so pa ta so cho pa ta ze she pa la so pa li nga ye sam ku dik ba tu yang sa chim bu shu chi ni ma jang ja ko re sin do na nya wal ma jang ja ko re ze wo so za za che go da go se Taki da pe chik bar ha nga so ton da chu chi le zav zav shu che ndo as yang sa chun chu chi le ma za to che na ro ba zav zav su che gre che ndo na ta tili yang sa da ya ni ja che a ge du pa gen je ta tili yang sa che mo re la wo ha ko sa re
Yeah. So so for example, we can think of taking care of not. I think it means like kind of we take care of not falling into an abyss, like an upper. And so likewise, we'll take care of our minds and the afflictions, because they will lead us then to engage in all sorts of physical, verbal, negativities.
Lingaya sub good bug delita shooting calistegio something Niparta Zaza Chegore or
And so all the afflictions leading us to negative actions of body, speech, and mind will create or will have very negative results in terms of difficulties.
That's what any time. Then it on messages in the master sound or that Tan Natiritsota Shagmari, Tangoni Dupa, the Shago, and the money Dembarisha, Dupa, the Tatiri Shagmari, Sani Shagmari, Nani Shagmar, Trisha, Sani Che, Sani or Sani Jasho Nanch, then you pam ten Tiayo Maris, then it Tiago the Savan in your Maris, near the Tanda round the Tanda Dupachina, Tanda Ransha to Tagorilla.
In it, the Nyempo.
Nyembo Tanda the Jimse Janjamato, Nyembo to Madu.
So we are still busy with, I mean, this is still talking about the reasons for why we are advised to apply the antidotes. And
Tanda Tangazo Dupasha go to go race, Gona, Tatrita Jashosa, Tendiche Yomar.
And we should not kind of postpone thinking, I can do it later, I can, do it tomorrow and at later stage.
Sani. Tanela Carzio, Niemboto Kayores, Niemboto money than the Katu Shaman to the Jamsera, Niemboto money the ta, not so Tandri, Tendito Chenita, not so Niemboto Jimoni Gomtan Cheni, Soundlochitan the Roa. Omotanga Niemboto General Tenidre, not so Gomgo, Wana Garchina, Tandanga Soundlo Yapochi, Lolo China, Trini on 3 Tandi Yanchola, Dupa coming to Milita, Nata Yiki, when you do Pahaja Mombochi Sayores and some lot of the Taroa. Hakoson. Nearly share the cure of my dear salt at
Anyway, so now, anyway, very important here is that we clearly recollect all the negativities that we have done in the past. See,
what did you do? But Sen Delakangi Mombo Rela Shamatona, Yawan, the Kioa Chamani Chiman, Dupa Hajan Chimbo Shivering, Alucha Mazir, that is him Chambala Kangi Chigris, and Matis Avlo Yapochita, Natsunibo to Gomton Shigurta.
So that's kind of like the way we are supposed to meditate on these 4 opponent powers. That thinking that in this life, but not only this life, but all in these countless past lives, we have done so many negativities of body, speech, and mind, and if we don't make confessions of those and purify them, then they will only lead to more and more suffering.
Sonsa, then you can look at your thing, kindly non Richambochi Sharsas and Lasam Nanta and Yopayapochi.
And then, with a really wholehearted or altruistic intention, we should give rise to this sense of regret.
Then no treat the Celestiores in Iona Sanji, the Chancho Sepalani, Maki Pachini, non Trishores.
And then remembering that we have made mistakes in relation to the enlightened ones in form of not having been respectful.
Or tell it, teach it and Camro Yapochi, Tani Zonte Sanji, the Chancho Sepali, Yichini, Nago, Yomo, Chama, the Yavala, so the Dingerman, we rewa Samat, Conchosam Yachu, and Camro Yapochi.
Because in year what uncle?
That Dinger Chima, Dinger Kijinchevich, the Camro Chiora, Nasonda, Dingoat, and Nasong, Dinger Litarvich, the Sangel, Reva Yavis, and Camro Yapochi.
And then we take wholehearted refuge in the enlightened ones, knowing that, doing so will protect us or prevent us from being reborn in the negative states of existence.
Ani Dupa Jamba Tanga, Semchan Latini, Semchan the Solatanga, no pa Momboji Chinishon is a tiny something, Semchan Katon, Semchan Tamcha Kangeli Sevicheta, Sanji Kwambondropi, and Sami Semki Apochiche.
And then we give rise to Bodhicitta, that, the wish to become enlightened for the benefit of all sentient beings in relation to whom we also have created so many negative actions.
No, what tell the stingy top chitani, Tanya Bok and the Kyop of the Tangi, Semcha Tamcha Dingali Drovich, Sanji Compondrovi and Samning, killing Semki the Chesar, so that is zonting at there, your Maritani Zonte, Chamba Gomia, Injia Gomia, Chancho Sem Gomia, Ani, Bombani Gomia, and Chego.
And then
so concept chatum chik te che gos nga so ngengo ni jo tanga trini zonte ne tanda semchan lan jo pa che che te semke ke sares semke ke sa se ta semke te ki jam ndu ta semchan gu ton che che te ne chamba ninje la so pa gongo ri tomba ni ta gemba la so pa tangos.
And then, yeah, having given rise to bodhicitta, then we, make the resolve to, do our best to develop these qualities such as loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta, and so forth.
Sem gongo ni ta lo pa te ma do charge dan te mu la so pe nyen bo sa wa ta tomba ni to pi shira yin so ta tomba ni to pi shira ya po chi gom.
And then we also do our best to meditate on emptiness, which is a counteraction to all these, or cutting the root, of all these afflictions.
Ani tanda liu goni duba mombo zi sa yo sa te tawi che te churten da gomba ta te sol korandro ache changse ache ani liu kali kyani thak jin la so pata liu goni ku jin wa ta churten jin la so pa liu goni diksha kali ta cheze kewa ya po chi so so de ya po chi che.
And then in order to, counter and purify the negative actions of our body that we have done, we can either do, circumambulation around stupas, around gompas, or, make prostrations, or also have statues made and stupas made, for example.
Last tani ngak goni ramandra mal sik support and ramandra tikcha shu lap sa ngak dik patawi che ta tanda Takishi anajere tonsha doya la sopa ta musman doya la sopa khando dramanda che yora tendi khando yapo che te ma ze chimani milit chambo ta kacha yapo ta tendi shiama to milis no kieta tendi le kam dikyam che san yapo chi sanlo ta.
And then as a purification of our negative actions, we can then recite the Mixima mantra or the prayer, for example, or make other confession prayers, other recitations. And also take care of, not to speak harshly towards others, for example, but rather, speak, in a friendly, gentle manner to others.
Otat it's what any book and the cupid of chitanis, Japan, Nipali Lardok toxicity. What that trini zonting Mijalan Nakagoni, no cake, Sixopong, Campan, Chamalas or Patani Meshi, Ligoni, Socio Palas or Pig, Yanjambala, Nocha Mechi. Iki goni docha kontro ngarja la so pa ngema cha ta so ta tani so te ni saw ni che mi sam mi la sam nam ta kan sam jo che ga sam lo chi ta.
And then the last of these 4 antidotes is the power of not engaging in these completely turning away from these faults, and then making the resolve in our minds not to physically harm others anymore in any ways, or speak harshly towards others, or also mentally, do our best not to give rise to negative states.
Osonsa tendi ramba jeta parab chini takashia namjin chik sona tendi nyembo to je sarchik le teze vore ta te kazi ke top kazi ya kiri che sona dikpandak top tendi chere kya chembo sotumna anta tombo ngyo pate ya pochi ya teni ti parul tomba ni gomate so kazi so gute ma lab cheri tantumna dikpataya teli ni bacherin rogre Ago no lab cheri zena lab cheri zena kya chembo ya pochi zotumna kazi ya pochi zotumna tel sok dikpa mombo takare.
And it's then we do our very best to apply these 4 upon powers, meditate in that way, and the more and the better we can do that, the more effective it will be in purification or in purifying our negative actions.
Teli yimbari teli dote chik ndacha chaji so so chik mungu ma chena na ndacha chanda uchi yabo ma chena chik chene che de yabo ma chena ande dipata ka pore katsam oda katsam cha so na de dipata ka pore.
But if we say just say it with our mouths but don't really mean it, just or do it not wholeheartedly, just half-heartedly, then it's questionable how much negativities can actually be purified.
So tatini ngaso lasa na ndakate chere tenita duba shapili to the sandor ta ko trayo isar ta triangle ta jan.
But yeah, anyway, Geshe also said, we do it, with an altruistic, really wholehearted intention, and then So, but that's kind of covering the second chapter of the confession of negativities. And if there are any questions?
Like the last point you was talking about, if I cannot really, like let's say it's a habit like anger. I don't want to do it again, but being realistic, I know I have this habit and it's not gone from today to tomorrow.
Yes.
If I promise it, then it feels like I'm lying to the Buddha.
Yeah, okay. So, Sigurusana Peshashana, control, Kia, Gomshi, you Peshashana, right? Kohako Gure, in the ring Peshashana, Junctus Sangidan Juzimbala, Consudic Pashagura, Tandane Yankee Konduki Mare, in a Gongshi Shukchemboyena, Nisani Nani, last Yankee Kiro, Shetan Dick Pashapi Kapsu, Sangidan Junctus Sempala Zuma, shared and double is a racing.
Tate Zuma the Parchi, Chasa Maru was good. Mari. Kyotani nga tsote ngoni koze anaji anjo ta sho tamja kaze chena yanja tamja shorta shogre ina tamja gole tamja tsani tangi jimatni cheme yasani ajimati ko nyori tes pengro ni tanda chena jikmund chena jikmund sandi mato nga so kewa thoma me pani chasonyo mol ko mi on sa tan teran ta chinche meche zeata kyatse ko na ko naj cheda che thachore ina ta te kyatse raze o ma tombo ko samlo dandinge sangi chanche sepango ko tango sani te lawo mare ngoni ngi che me samra ina ngoni che me samna jima yang control wang ngoni control ke sonre tu kyatse ran chak samare ma topically for ngoni
Yes, it's really difficult, but it's not considered a lie or lying. But Geshe says, if you, I mean, you're not saying this confession prayer, for example, with the the notion of deceiving the Buddhas, right? I mean, ideally, really fully regret that you have been angry or what, and you don't want to do it again. But, since time without beginning, we have been around, we've had these afflictions, though it's natural for them to come up again and again. But, confess, like, recognizing this and making confession of them, whatever went wrong, then it will help to diminish, make it less, this habit lesser and lesser, right? But it's not a lie.
Ngoni jima contra kegme samni tombo shaba chetia te ngoni kegme samni lasana da kasam gore mengo ko ta isa te make it zeng ram macha ti gemsen ro te sheor na jindawa na te mombo chi ngore zeng kort kol pashongo kortando me chani zenchakamari ziachi ngombi ngarjar kichang kashazin in dawal tenchi yore ta main gichi yendondo chini she de yore yena ya ko zenchakamari king go kortan sa ni she mari kiti insari sa ni she de yore
Kaza yanko dodi na kansla
dodi na roa de serre zininge shena kyazare ne serre samni serre zelanda kyazamari ser main ge hakojenda serre zeni shana kyazare te najita da tengi ngoni choni jima control teri chegme samni ta juyore mato ta cheda cheginde tagaz kyazare te sangume sonta kyazendro samar
yeah, okay, so I was just saying again that is not considered a lie because you're not saying it with this idea, I'm going to deceive them, or you're not just saying it, I'm not going to be angry again. You really, recognize that as a negative, whatever habit, and you want to, not do it again. So in that way, it's not considered a lie. Geshe gave this example. If he says, his mobile phone is gold, but thinking that it's gold is not a lie. But knowing that it's a phone and saying it's gold, then that becomes lie. I mean, just to illustrate the idea, yeah, what I said before.
And it's not easy because if I confess today, tomorrow I'll do the same thing again. Because for one example, in my class, there's a lady who sits next to me, and when the teacher is giving teaching, she keep asking me to translate for her. But then if I translate for her, which I'm doing it, but then I miss the lesson. I couldn't catch up. But I tried to tell her, I will do it later. I will translate for you. But then she keep asking me, and I have to do the translation, and I miss the lesson, and then I'll get agitated. And if I get agitated today, tomorrow I'll get agitated too. Yeah.
고양 집하다 보나 그래서 그 진짜 값소 그럼 그래서 대ring 딕바샤 저러 얘네 양케 산이 미게베 검시 양용 시그로 배셔 진짜 값소 콘키틸라 포모식 되게서래 아니 코나 기계체 데 계샤지게래 코다 단다 카톡 기계체 바이나 데스 칼리오래 진짜 게실라 카레 숭게다메 차상 년투 말을 대한다고 세상 공 promotion 발랍 소세나 언가 경기치 제라 기계체 지고 이네 부모디 양케 공기차지 그래 단다랑 기계체 아치 데네시 공 속롱 봐야 양케요래 세상 디링 다 지센딕 바샤 샤 시그레네 산이 양케 속롱 봐래
te yongore te yacha gyari ngaso tenili laos ka to mar pe na ngaso tabat so ina dawa cheka la sugyon so de wor sugyon reren so vi kavle ne jimani choni jeng mezeni sugyon na damja chaw yon dawa cheka li yon so kor kar chegre damja chegi wor da yon jo le gre ze wor yon che na dikpa ta le pengo so da dawa cheka la sugyon so taba korol yor ro te ngaso ge te chi 단다 님부터 비제 니 타바체 토난지 코레다 니 마카시기 체토난지 코레 니 타바체 토나다 야셔로 어때체 되나고 칼리 드바 총리 도니 셈게트 소 야리 다 텐도 몽글리 라오치다 요마레 타레 수경 벨리나 하코레
Yeah, so Geshe confirms it's not easy. And he says, yeah, for us monastics, right, there's sojong every 2 weeks. Where we go and confess and this and that. Yeah, every 2 weeks. But yeah, so we confess, we confess, but then we do the things again. We know all those who go to Sojong will know that. But still, over time it will get lesser and lesser. But yeah, it's not an easy thing to really get over.
Otini do isar kasi cheto tinan rikosh. Ko samlo ti yasa linyan tapa kali gya de ora ko.
He also said, if he, apply these 4 opponent powers, we do it every day, it's brilliant, but every few days. But yes, slowly, we'll, get that, we'll, develop more towards positive.
That's
Try.
yeah.
Kafshishik.
Tare. Tabshi chena mato li laota yo mari. Nyomo tael. Ro?
Yeah, we all know it's not easy to, overcome the afflictions.
Natso tabacheni gomba nal dini losam chaka chorita. Chuchu dini tiri korche on deta kaka kontro mekiwa tani chuni zoto munduta.
Gompala digente.
Ngaro rezina kontro mekiwa ta chuni zoto munduta. Tati kyonimba ta haya poko urema.
Therefore, like having stayed in the monastery, I know from experience that, not to give rise to anger is not really possible. Okay. Are there any questions from those people online?
Geshe-la, I have a question.
Yes.
How often should we do 35 Buddha confession?
The Sumchu Songa, Sangi Sumchu Songa, Tongsha, Tenkatsu Chigre.
Donayo. Tata Changata Musita.
I mean, the ring, Sani, Kadu, Katsu, Tenkatsu. Chikla,
that's also a check at the Totoremato, tell Musi Niete Yomar, Tonshando and Regina Zimbe. Marriages in a Tonjani Mariton searching Dongu. Chigma Tondo, Nimaril Chirindongo, Tetindoyan, the Dinner so
Chapu young,
the Chapiton and Yashori, Chapi Matona could knock the Patakara, not catching Donton. That is also Katitotomuni, but Changayoma.
Geshe says there's not a particular number, and there's no particular, guideline, as it were, that one has to do it so and so many times. It's up to you how often you can do it. Geshe says he recites this confession sutra, this prayer that goes with it. He recites that every day. But I mean, it's really up to you or up to the individual how often one wants to do or can do this practice.
Nekandro the patient of China Mombo Chirana and Decorati Nichim Marana and Rindo. The Chimber gets as the Chimper Mombo Chidupton and recorded, and you Chidupton and record.
It's like working hard for a lot of money, but I mean, it's, if one wishes to have a lot of money, then has to work hard for it. But you know, working less, then one gets lesser. It's the same thing.
So counted.
So, but yeah, however one is able to can do the practice.
That's Shaka.
Okay, thank you. Thank
Okay.
you. I got it.
Okay. Thank you.
Nijaye.